My name's Scott Bennett. I'm from Solver Asia Pacific, and pleasure to be here today with our elite partner, MicroChannel, to talk to you a little bit about reporting, budgeting, and forecasting in Solver alongside Sage 300. So on that note, I might just kick things off and get started. But the purpose today really is to talk to you about how we can assist you with your reporting and budgeting processes. So first things first, everyone can rest easy. First of all, we're not going to spend ages in PowerPoint. That's not the purpose today. The purpose really is to try and get across to everybody on the call the value that Solver potentially represents and how it can help you address some of these reporting and budgeting processes that can be quite challenging to an organization. So I just popped up on screen a bit of an overview of Solver as an organization, a little bit about our history, some of our awards, etc. I'm not going to go through all of that one by one. I'm just going to leave it up on the screen for a moment for people to run through. But what I am going to say is more along the lines of why everyone should stick around for today's session. So I would say that we've got a number of organizations on the call from a variety of different industries. And if it's taking you too long to produce your reports today, if you're spending too much time exporting data, manipulating data, dumping it into Excel to produce your weekly, monthly management reports, if you are combining data from multiple sources, not only from Sage 300, but from other areas of the business like payroll or CRM, then it's probably worth sticking around because we're going to show you today how you can address and streamline some of those processes in Solver. We're also going to talk a little bit about budgeting and forecasting. Again, if you're using Excel today for your budgeting and forecasting processes, you don't need me to tell you that that can be a challenge, especially if you have multiple contributors across the organization and you're consolidating your budgets and forecasts at multiple levels. It's typically something that organizations don't look forward to. So if you have any challenges on that front, you have challenges with your reforecasting, with your what if analysis and scenario planning, if all of that's taking too long, then again, I think there will be something for you in today's session. Okay, but just a little bit of history in regards to our relationship with MicroChannel. We've been working with MicroChannel now across ANZ for a number of years. They are our only Solver elite partner. We work very closely with them across a variety of projects for a number of customers. So pleasure to be on with the MicroChannel team today. So I talked a little bit about why you should stick around and some of the challenges that you're potentially experiencing within your organization. So I want to follow that up really by talking about what Solver is and how it all fits together. So Solver is a full cloud solution hosted on Microsoft Azure. And the central component within Solver is really the data warehouse. And when I say data warehouse, I don't want anyone to go running away. This isn't a data warehouse that's going to take years to build and a team of 10 people to implement. This is not what we're talking about here. This is a pre-built, out-of-the-box data warehouse designed for organizations like yourselves, that what we call mid-market area, whereby we can bring your enterprise data into the data warehouse on an automated basis. And the way that we do that is we use our connectors, and we have a connector for Sage 300, which allows us to very easily have your data come into the Solver environment on an automated basis. So we alongside yourselves and the MicroChannel team, we determine what it is that you want to bring into Solver for reporting and planning purposes. And then we can set that up on an automated basis so that it synchronizes every 30 minutes, every hour, overnight. It is entirely up to you. The idea being that that data integration is automated, okay? But not only that, as I mentioned earlier, if you are combining data sources for your reporting purposes, such as payroll, client management, whatever it may be, we can also bring that information into Solver as well. So once that information's here in the data warehouse, we can then report off it. We use Excel as the design layer within Solver, but all of the report consumption distribution takes place via our web environment. So we like to look at it as the best of both worlds. So super users, if you like, or power users within the organization get to leverage their existing Excel skills to create their reports using Excel and the Solver add-in tool. Yet everybody else that is consuming reports does that all via the web environment. And you can do things like set up filters, parameters, drill downs, and all that kind of good stuff that we're going to show you today. Secondly, you can also do your planning. The great thing here is that all of your actuals are obviously coming into Solver. So now you have the ability to bring all of your planning information, all of your budgeting and forecasting, with all of that data residing also in the Solver data warehouse. So if you think of that, multiple versions of budgets and forecasts becomes a lot easier. The ability to consolidate budgets and forecasts at multiple levels, to set up predefined scenarios, to map out different type of scenarios over the coming year or years. All of that becomes so much easier within Solver. And not only that, if you want to get to a point where you want to create some advanced visualizations and cockpit views, then we'll go a step further. Yes, you can do all your formatted reporting, you can do static dashboards within Solver, but if you want to get to a stage where you're creating these advanced visualizations, we have a certified plugin, Microsoft certified plugin into Power BI. Again, it's all about giving you guys options and the best of all worlds. Okay. And just a quick snapshot here. This is a cross section of some of the Solver customers, Solver and MicroChannel customers within the Asia Pacific region. You'll no doubt recognize some of those names. The great thing about Solver is we're pretty much across all industries. And as you would have noticed in the opening slide, globally, we have about 3,000 customers using the product. So you're in good company. All right. So on that note, what I will do is I'm going to switch into the product and I'm going to show you a few different things which I hope will be of interest to you. So you're now looking at the Solver application. You'll recall earlier I mentioned it is a full cloud solution hosted on Azure. We have data centers across the globe, but importantly for everyone on the call, we have 2 data centers on the east coast of Australia. And what you'll see here is I'm accessing this via Firefox, but you can access the product via any browser or any device. What you'll see is I'm greeted with a selection of options. A couple of key areas here, reporting and planning. Because I'm playing a power user here, I also have access to the data warehouse and a number of administrative settings. Not going to get into that too much today. Now, one thing to point out is if someone within your organization is purely viewing reports, then they will only see home, reports, and maybe archive. If somebody within your organization is contributing to budgets and forecasts, and that's all they do, maybe they're just going to see their assignments. The reason for that is we strip things back so that the menu system is as simple as possible for users, and they're only sort of seeing the options that they need to see. But again, I'm playing every role, so you can see I've got all of these different options. So what you'll see is if I click over here into the data warehouse, first of all, just to set the scene, this is all of the information that is coming into my Solver demo environment here. So for instance, I have my general ledger information coming in out of Sage 300. I have my general ledger transactional information. In this scenario, I'm also bringing in my AP and AR. It's entirely up to you what you want to bring in. Maybe you want to bring your sales information in, your inventory. It's entirely up to you. So I have this information coming in on an automated basis. I also have my payroll system. This is a third-party payroll system coming in. And I also have a project system coming into this environment as well. So you really can bring anything into the Solver data warehouse. That's what it's designed for. And we have a host of connectors within our marketplace that make that process very straightforward. The idea being that this is automated, so you don't have to go through that process of exporting and manipulating data on a regular basis. Okay? So there's a whole session we could do on the data warehouse, of course, but that's not the purpose today. So I just wanted to show you that so that you get an idea of where the information is residing, the manner in which it is brought in. You can see it's very structured, okay, and it's based on the kind of outputs that you need as an organization. So if I click over here into reporting, you'll see that I'm greeted with a number of reports within my environment. Worth pointing out, you can create any type of report within Solver. Any type of financial or operational report is entirely up to you. We have a number of templates available to get things started for customers, but chances are you've probably got a unique range of reports that you need as well. Typically, the MicroChannel team will help you get those up and running from day one. But the whole idea of Solver, of course, is that it is self-service, right? You don't want to have to be calling the MicroChannel team or ourselves every time you need a change to a report. Typically, within a day and a half's worth of training, you'll be creating your own reports in Solver. So you'll notice down here, I have my categories and folders. Each user can create their own here. And if I go into Scott's reports, you'll see that I have a selection of favorite reports that I'll typically use. What I'm going to do to kick things off, I'm going to open up this profit and loss report. Now I'm going to point out, first of all, if you look at this report and you say, hey, I don't like it, I don't like the design, I don't like the layout, not a problem. It is entirely up to you how you design these reports. You'll recall I mentioned we use Excel and a Solver add-in tool as the design layer. That means all of the formatting, the formulation, and design, most people on the call are probably familiar with. You can leverage that within Solver. So what you can see here within my report is I have all of my revenue accounts here with my actual budget and variance. I've got some expense accounts down here. You can see I can expand this out, so I can make use of expansion groups, which some people on the call may be familiar with. Okay, I can expand this out here if I want to, so I can see my actuals year to date, budget and variance. And then, of course, I can expand that out even further if I want to for additional information, so that I can see additional information. What I can also do is I can drill down on any of these numbers. So if I want to, this services number you see here, I can drill down into the transactional detail if I want to, because this is coming in out of your Sage 300 system. So assuming we're bringing that information into Solver, you can create any type of drill down or drill through within your reports. Not only that, you can create any type of filter or parameter. So you'll notice here that if I select entity, I can run this for the US entity, the Australian entity, or multiple entities. It's entirely up to me. This could very easily be cost centers, departments, product groups. You can set up any type of parameter or filter you like. You'll notice I've also got period. What financial period do I want to run this report for? And what scenario? You'll recall earlier I mentioned if you're doing your planning in Solver, you can set up multiple scenarios for your what if analysis. So I could very easily run this profit and loss report against budget version 1, 2, 3. Worst case, realistic, best case. I have that flexibility within this environment. This is really important because we get asked about this a lot, but you'll notice I can also add comments to the report. So if you're sharing this report with multiple people across your organization, you can have them enter reports into the actual, enter comments into the actual report. And those comments will reside alongside that specific version of the report. So the report for that cost center, that product group, that period, with all of that information stored back to the data warehouse. Now, this may be sufficient for a lot of people on the call, but you can even go a step further. Maybe you want to provide more extensive commentary, or have your product managers, as an example, provide more extensive product commentary. So in this case, you can create your own project, your own comment templates. These can look however you want, and it just gives you the opportunity to collate more information if that's something that you want to do. So all of this is available to you within your reports. This is just an example, but think of any type of report. I know there's a lot of different types of businesses on the call, whether you're a not-for-profit, whether you're a distribution organization, a manufacturer. You think about any of the type of reports you're doing, sales reports, KPI, inventory reports, all of that can be addressed within Solver, assuming you're bringing that information in. Now, just quickly, the big question is, how do I get the report into this environment? And you'll note that right now I'm a consumer of this report, and I'm getting to analyze it, run the report, filter it, drill down. If I was a power user and one of my team came to me and said, well, the report's great, but I could do with some additional information, or it doesn't quite look the way that I want it to, well, very easily, what I can do as a power user, I can just come in here and click Edit in Report Designer. Now, what this is going to do is going to open up Excel for me. It's going to launch the report design tool. And you'll see now that this is the profit and loss report in its raw Excel form. Now, this really is Excel. This is not something that looks like Excel. This is actually Excel. A couple of differences, of course, you'll note we've got our Solver reporting add in there at the top. And crucially, what we have down the left-hand side here is all of our data from across the organization. So this could simply be your Sage 300 information, but as we mentioned, it could very easily be your payroll information, your CRM, your projects, etc. So when this report was created, the individual come in here and they said, right, I need access to my Sage 300 general ledger. Okay, great. I'm going to take my account dimension and I'm going to drop it into C13. And then I'm going to expand out that dimension. I'm going to take my account description and drag that attribute into D30. These that you see here are standard Excel formulas, nothing proprietary. Okay. I maybe want to make use of our predefined period functions and additional options down the left, of which there are many. Okay. I'm going to bring in some budget information. So you can start to see how the report gets built up. And all of the design and formatting is just standard Excel stuff. Okay. So if somebody came to me and in the interest of time, they said, hey, you know what? The report's not fitting in with that branding, the color's wrong, whatever it may be. As a power user, I can simply go in here and say, right, okay, I'll make that change for you. I'm going to change it to blue, right? What I can do, I can make the changes. I could add columns, information, whatever I wanted to do, but I'll just do that for the sake of time. I can now go into my Run tab, and you'll notice that it's remembered the parameters that I last selected when I was in the web environment. Same period, entity, scenario. So I can now run that. I can actually run it in Excel. It'll go out to my Solver Cloud Data Warehouse, and it's going to bring back the latest information that is available. And it may be that it's done a synchronization with your Sage 300 application, at which point there has been an update, and that information will be made available to me. So here's my info. I'm happy with that. So now all I need to do is go back into my Design tab, hit Save, and you'll notice straight away it's told me that that's been uploaded. So if I close out of Excel now, you'll notice that in the Solver web environment, it has instantly detected those changes. So all I need to do is refresh my report, run my report, and any changes that I made when I was in the design tool will now be available to me in Solver. And you'll all recall that all I did was change the color of the header just to illustrate how easy it was to get a change back up into the web environment. So now I can just publish the draft, And I can say, yeah, great. Now I'm going to share it with my team based on role or user. And what will happen is Solver will put a notification up within the environment, but it can also send an email automatically out to these team members saying, hey, Scott just shared this new profit and loss report with you. They will click the link. It will take them straight into the web environment. They will put in their login and password. You can also set up multi-factor authentication for added security, and it will take them straight into their report. Now, there's a lot of value here because what this is doing is it means you only need to create a report one time. You create the report one time, you share it with your team members, and then you're giving them the ability each month, each week, each day to run that report for a variety of different parameters and do their own analysis. And the question you're probably thinking is, but what happens if I share this report with multiple people and I don't want them all to see the same kind of information? Well, the great thing about Solver is within that data warehouse, you can get very granular with your security. So you could share this report with 30 people and each individual only gets to see the information they're supposed to see. So for instance, I could come in here and I can run it for everything, every entity. Maybe colleagues can only run it specifically for an Australian entity or European entity. For department ABC, right? Maybe they can only run it for the actuals scenario. Maybe you don't want them to have access to all of the scenario planning. So the idea here is you create the report one time, you share it with the team, and your job is done. The idea being is that potentially a lot of time saving there, not having to worry about going through that repetitive process on a regular basis, exporting, dumping, manipulating data, formatting it for different recipients, having to do it all the time. And also the fact that you're allowing team members to get instant access to this information. So hopefully that's one area of the system where there's potentially some value for everyone on the call. One thing you can also do just quickly is you'll see that within this report here, you can also set up unlimited hierarchical tree structures. Now you'll notice I've got a report here. Again, it's a profit and loss from a Canadian entity. But what you'll see at the top here is I also have access to these, what we call trees. And look, you can probably think of some great tree structures for your own businesses. This particular one here, I can run a consolidated view of the group. I can run it specifically for the Asia region, Western Hemisphere, or individual entities. You could do things around product groups, regions, programs, departments, whatever you can dream up, you can create as a tree within Solver. So from that perspective, that gives you even more flexibility. So for instance, if I wanted to come in here, I could say, yeah, now I want to see a consolidated view of this. Okay, so you can do that in two ways. You can do that as tabs, or you can do it as rows. So there are a few different ways in which you can do that. You'll notice here at the top on this one, I have different departments that I can use for my report. Okay, so there are a few different ways in which you can do that. Now, the other thing that we get asked a lot as well is report packs, whether it's a weekly or monthly exercise, board packs, management packs, whatever it may be. They can be a challenge to put together. So within Solver, what we have is what we call playlists. And this is an ability for you to automate the running and distribution of your board reports or your management reports, okay? So that each individual gets a notification and the ability to go in and view that pack on a regular basis without a lot of input from your team. As an example, if I open up this briefing pack here, you'll see that I'm greeted with a bit of an overview initially, giving me a snapshot of where everything sits for us as an organization. The key thing you'll notice here is it actually includes a narrative. And this is an auto narrative. So within Solver, you can build in a number of drivers into your report. These drivers could be any profit between 50 and 100,000, we class as great. Anything from 100 to 150 is exceptional, whatever it may be. You can set up all of these different drivers into your reports so that each time they are run, the narrative will automatically adjust in line with the kind of numbers that we're achieving. So here you can see profitability this month was great. This was our income compared to the same month last year. This was our best-selling product. This was our top customer. All of these are just drivers that you can build into your report. So if you have someone that is transposing data on a regular basis, making numbers make sense for the recipient, again, this is something that can potentially help you save a lot of time. So you can produce these board packs or management packs. You can include this narrative. You can then go on and include some charting or dashboard information along with the formatted report. You can still give them the ability to drill down if you want to. You can include other corresponding information in here, okay, all as part of your management pack. Again, this is just an example. You can include whatever you like. But the idea is that you would go into our publisher module and you would say, right, this is my monthly report pack. It's for board members. What reports am I including in this pack? Okay. And who is it going to? Is it going by role or by user? Let's just do it by user. Do I want it sent out on email as a static spreadsheet, which you can do? Or do I want it to go to a user's archive? A recommended approach whereby they get the option to still drill down and it's all organized and instantly available within the Solver environment. So it's a more user-friendly alternative. And when do I want this to go? Well, I want these packs to go out every month on the last day at this time. Your job's done. Yes, you can go in and check the status to make sure that everything is run and distributed as it should. But for all intents and purposes, the process is complete. This will happen every month. The reports will run, and each member will get a notification to say, yep, here is your report, your briefing pack, your playlist for review. You can even include a report within that pack that consolidates all of the commentary from across the organization. So that if it is that you do want your product managers or your program managers to enter in comments within the report, you can actually have a report within your pack that will consolidate that commentary so that board members can actually get a full picture of the thoughts of all the senior leaders within the organization. They're going to be able to comment at any point as well and say, you know what, I want to open a couple of previous reports and I want to compare them. How are we doing? Well, you get that option too. All of this is available to you within the archive. So at any point you can come in here and start opening these reports. You can still drill down. You can do all of that analysis. Lots of options available to you. I've just given you a couple, but there's so much more you can do with reporting as well within Solver. One thing I will just quickly do before I jump into budgeting is, for those team members that have these reports, you provided all these reports to them, maybe there will come a time where they have a specific query. And rather than have to call the team and say, hey, I need to know the answer to this, what you can do with Solver is you can also give them access to what we call our ad hoc reporting tool. Okay. Again, the idea is they're self-sufficient, right? They don't need to have to wait for reports. They don't need to have someone actually go in and create that report for them. So what we do with our ad hoc reporting tool is we'll actually give individuals, subject to security, of course, the option to create or to run their own queries. And the way in which we do that is we allow them to access each of the modules within Solver. So you'll recall earlier within the data warehouse, we bring in all of the information as modules out of your Sage 300 system, your payroll, your CRM, etc. So I could come in here as a user and I could say, I want to run a query, I need account description, maybe I want extended price in here as well. So for instance, if I just move my toolbar out of the way, forgive me. So if I come in here, let's check, let's select my revenues module, which would be a better approach. So if I select my revenues here and I say I want my account description, and I also want my extended price, refresh. That's now available to me. Now I might want to switch to pivot mode, and I might want to say I want to add entity in here, refresh. I want to move this around. Now I've got all of that information by entity. Now what I can do is very easily highlight this and say, I want to see this grouped. Okay, great. Now I've got a bar chart. Maybe I don't like that. Maybe I want to choose a different option. Maybe I want to filter on period, account, entity, or anything else you can see. The idea here is that individuals can run their own queries. And if it is that team members tend to be running these queries a lot, and there could be benefit to the wider team, then you can very easily use this as the basis to create a formatted Solver report off the back of this query. Okay, so you can make this available to everyone. Again, it's all subject to security, so you can lock down certain things that they shouldn't see. But if you really do want to build a formatted report off the back of it, you can do it very easily and quickly. Okay, so again, there's heaps we could get into on reporting. We're more than happy, and I'm sure the MicroChannel team are more than happy to go through this with you in detail if you want more information on the reporting side. But I just very quickly want to jump into the planning section for budgeting and forecasting, just to give you an idea of how it all sort of fits together. So you'll notice here I have my planning section. If I drop onto input templates, you can see that I have a number of input forms available to me. Again, we have templates, but we can also create to your own specification. You've probably got unique things that you capture as part of your business. Very common for the MicroChannel team to create these budget and forecast forms for you as part of a rollout. But you can see here I can do anything. I've got my expenses, budgeting, cash flow, balance sheet budgets, sales forecasts, personnel planning. I've got everything available to me here. And it all looks very similar to reporting, right? By design. The difference is these are all input forms. And what you can do within Solver is you can set up unlimited budget drivers, or what we call assumptions. So for instance, I've set up a number of assumptions here where I have my payroll tax assumptions, CPI increase, long service leave, working days, travel assumptions, which all feed into a variety of different budget and forecast forms. The advantage here is if anyone on the call is using Excel for budgeting and forecasting, and you have multiple contributors, it can be a bit of a nightmare where you have multiple versions of a document, of a sheet, flowing around the organization, especially when it comes to making changes to drivers. Here, what I could do, and CPI increase is probably a good example right now, certainly need to be more than 1.8%. If I wanted to change that to 6% or 7%, I can very easily, as a power user, come in and go, I want to change it to 6 or 7%. I only want it to apply to this version of the budget or forecast, and I want it to start or only apply from this period. So we call these global assumptions because it does give you global control over the whole process. You haven't got to worry about whether somebody is using the correct sheet, or maybe or relying on them to update it, or whatever existing process you have in place. So you can set up multiple assumptions within Solver. So let's assume we've set up our assumptions, we have our budget and forecast forms. Let's go and start the process. So if I drop down here into workflow, I can start my budget and forecast process. Let's do an example in the interest of time. Let's say this is our annual expenses budget 2023, we're early, okay? You as a manager would decide when this process starts. And again, for the sake of this exercise, let's start it on the 1st of September. And let's say that everybody needs to have this completed. Let's give them a month. Give them a bit longer, actually. Let's just say 31st of October. And you could also say, well, that's great. So I have the window, and now I want Bud to review everything. So when those budgets or forecasts are submitted, Bud reviews them first. If he's happy with them, I'm then going to send it on to Archie for approval. I'm going to select a template. And again, these would be specific to your organization. We're doing expenses. I can fix the parameters so that they can only enter for a specific entity, department, period. But what you might want to do is let the user decide. This is really cool because you might have users that are entering budget or forecast information for multiple entities, multiple departments, programs, etc. So subject to their security, you can allow them to select accordingly. And then you would do by role user, and you would say, yep, these are the guys I want on this workflow. You save and publish, and then what happens is on the 1st of September, they're all going to get an email that says, great, your the budget season started, whatever it may be. They click the link, and it will take them into the assignment. So I'm now going to move from a manager perspective to a contributor. And if I click over here into my assignments, you will see, and I'm playing every role in this environment, so I have multiple assignments, some in progress, approval, complete, waiting approval, some completed. If they were just doing the one assignment, then they just have the one new assignment that would pop up. So the contributor comes in, they look at their assignment, they go, great, okay, I'm going to open that up. It opens up their assignment, okay, and here is their expenses assignment. And you'll notice that I can only enter for these parameters. Anything that is yellow means I can enter information. Anything else I can't change. So you notice things like my accounts, of course, my actuals year, this is demo data, but my actuals year to date, I can't change any of that, and nor should I. But you'll notice anything that's yellow means I can enter information. So the contributor can come in here and go, conference and seminars, great. You know, I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say, yeah, good, 1,000 a month, spread it across 12 months, super easy, you can do all of that. But what I might want to do when I get down into travel is I can click on travel down here, and you'll notice I'm greeted with a whole host of other options. Now, here's where it gets interesting, because a lot of people turn to Excel because they need flexibility. They want to be able to put underlying line item detail. They want to be able to embed commentary, etc. Gets really tricky. This makes it easier because within Solver, you can add unlimited line item detail. So in travel here, what I might want to do is I might want to refer to a, you know, it's a Sydney event, right? Just as an example. We're doing it in January and we're planning to spend 24,000. We got another bigger event in July and we're planning to spend 45,000. Maybe we have one over in Perth. Here I can do something a little different. I could say, you know what, we're going to do these monthly. It's a big expense. We're going to spend 180,000 for the year. And what I want you to do is I want you to look at the previous year's actuals, which are now highlighted. And I want you to spread that number based on the trend that we saw in 2020. Okay, so it's going to take the 180, it's going to look at the split, and it will distribute accordingly. Or I could say do that, but offset Jan, Feb, and March. Right, so I can offset months as well. I can also say just take last year's actuals plus 10%. Right, I can create my own distribution methods. So a lot of people on the call, obviously your businesses are all unique. You have your own ways of doing things. So you can create your own distribution methods. Like I've got summer and winter here, which I recently did for a retail organization. Or you could simply say, you know what, I want you to take it and let's just break it down across the 12-month period. And you'll notice now it's split it and it's rolled up at Jan and it's rolled up in July. Now, this is a big spend, so what I might want to do is put, yeah, agreed with marketing. So suddenly I'm building out my budget. I can add department comments in here as well. And I can also add line item detail comments. The advantage here is this is auditable. So user date timestamped. And you can always get access to it because it's stored securely in the data warehouse. So if someone's reviewing this, the red indicator is telling you there's underlying detail. You review, and then the red indicator here is telling you there's commentary that you need to review. And if I want to, I can expand this out and take up the whole screen, just give me a bit more area to work. But not only that, you have, I just move my bar out of the way, but what you can also do as well is you have a full activity log within Solver. So you'll notice here that I can keep track of everything that is happening within this assignment. So rather than have people do all of this on email, everything is entered into Solver. You can search it at any time using keywords. You can search based on what status the budget or forecast assignment was in, all within the environment. So right now, if I want to come back to this, I can just save data. That means I'm going to come back to it later. Stored, it moves to in progress, and I can continue with my budget at a later date. If I finalize it, I complete the assignment. That means it's closed. I can't change it. And what will happen is that will, the system will send a notification to the reviewer, depending on how you've set it up, to say, you know, Scott's budget forecast is now available for review. They can review it, and they can do a few things. They can reject it, at which point I'll be notified and I can read why it was rejected and then make the appropriate changes. Alternatively, it may get sent on for approval. Either way, the workflow keeps going all the way until the final approval of the budget. And of course, once you've collated all of these budgets and forecasts, you can then automatically consolidate them at multiple levels. So you can run a report and say, I want to see a consolidated view of this budget based at the product group. I want to see it at the Asia Pacific region. I want to see it for the whole organization. And you can do that automatically. Also makes reforecasting a hell of a lot easier as well. Something that we heard a lot of course, during the COVID period, where people were finding they had to reforecast very quickly on the fly, and realizing that it's very hard to do within Excel, especially if you have multiple people contributing to the budget or forecast. And of course, as you would expect, as a budget manager, you can come in at any point in time and you can say, I want to see where we're at with the whole process. So I want a real-time snapshot of where the whole budget forecast process is at. So, you know, what's awaiting approval, right? What's been completed? What's in progress? I want to filter based on all the assignments. You can, of course, have multiple assignments. So how are people going with their expenses budget, their personnel planning, their CapEx? Let's just filter it on specific users. How are they doing? All of that can be done very easily within the environment. Okay. Now, budgeting forecasting is a huge area. That's just one example. In the interests of time and for today's format. But of course, MicroChannel team would very happy to talk with you about your existing budget and forecasting processes and how they would be specifically or could be specifically addressed within Solver. Because I don't want to do a disservice to this. It's such a big area. We have a lot of customers that have real complexity around their budgeting and forecasting process, which we can typically address within Solver. So if this is of interest, I would encourage you to reach out to the MicroChannel team to get a bit more information on the whole budgeting and forecasting arena, because there's so much more there. Finally, within the Solver environment, what you can do is you can connect the Solver data warehouse, as I mentioned, to Power BI very easily. So all of your formatted reporting is done within Solver. As I mentioned, you can do static dashboarding within your reporting. But if you really want to go to the next level with, you know, advanced visualizations, maybe you've got a huge screen or something in your office or in your warehouse, and you want to keep your numbers syncing throughout the day, then you can easily connect Solver to Power BI, so that all of that structured data, all of that information flows through into Power BI without you having to do all of the programming data modeling maintenance typically associated with a BI tool. The idea is all of that just flows across into Power BI so that you can just concentrate on creating dashboards. These are just some examples, but as you can see, you can do a lot of different things within Power BI. I wanted to get to this last tab because I wanted to quickly show you the simulation. Again, everything's coming through from Solver, but this is giving me a different way to do my what if analysis. So for instance, I can leverage the information. I can go, what happens if my product revenue increases by 15? My service revenue increases by 25. Cost of sales is going to go up. What does my organization look like? So you can very easily create these simulations. Again, this is just the visualization layer. Everything is coming from Solver. Once I get to the end of this and I've workshopped it, I can then link back into the Solver cash flow budget, balance sheet, and make any necessary changes so that I can finalize that aspect of my processes. Okay, so again, the idea today is we're giving you a snapshot. This is very much a trailer, if you like, but would encourage you to reach out if you require any further information. There's lots you can do with this product. You don't have to do everything. Sometimes when we do these sessions, we'd like to give a snapshot of all the different areas of the product, but it may be that within your organization, you just purely want to enhance your reporting out of Sage 300, and that's fine. Maybe you want to do that and you're budgeting and forecasting, great. So you don't have to do everything. I'd recommend that if you do have any of the challenges that we mentioned, just reach out to the MicroChannel team and maybe zero in on some of that stuff and see how we could potentially address it in Solver.